Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Well, it's a drama Saturday with episodes of Suspense, Eddie Bracken starring as the visitor. Also, an episode of the CBS Radio Workshop, The Enormous Radio. An episode of Lights Out, Murder in the Script Department. Tyrone Power as Senator Dean Edwards in Freedom USA. And an episode of Claudia. That's all straight ahead on this Saturday, 11th day of May, 131st day of the year, and 32nd day of the year, rather. And we have 234 days remaining till we get out of 2024. Minnesota, happy birthday. 32nd State of the Union admitted on this date in 1858. A derailment outside Lompoc, California, killed 32 Shriners when their chartered train jumped off the tracks at a switch near Surf Depot on this date in 1907. 1910, Glacier National Park in Montana was established by Congress. Gottlieb Daimler and Carl Benz merged to create Mercedes-Benz on this date in 1924. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences founded in 1927. In 1934, a strong two-day dust storm removed massive amounts of Great Plains topsoil in one of the worst dust storms of the Dust Bowl in North America. In 1940, John Steinbeck awarded the Pulitzer Prize for his novel, The Grapes of Wrath.
I'll be all around in the dark. I'll be everywhere, wherever you can look. Wherever there's a fight so hungry people can eat, I'll be there. Wherever there's a cop beating up a guy, I'll be there. I'll be in the way guys yell when they're mad. I'll be in the way kids laugh when they're hungry and they know supper's ready. And when the people are eating the stuff they raise and living in the houses they build, I'll be there too.
Henry Fonda's great interpretation of Steinbeck's character Tom Joad's soliloquy, The Grapes of Wrath, got the Pulitzer Prize on this date in 1940. The book basically depicting the events from 1934 that we talked about, the dust storm and the Dust Bowl. Beatles' song The Long and Winding Road, released as a single in the U.S. on this date in 1970, the group's last number one single in the USA. In 1973, citing government misconduct, Daniel Ellsberg had his charges for involvement in releasing the Pentagon Papers to the New York Times dismissed. In 1985, a fire in the stands of a championship English soccer game killed 56 people and injured 256.
And look at that! Oh, the poor man. Oh, this is awful. The police desperately trying to save the life of a supporter. He'd come to watch the football. This is human tragedy.
According to forensic scientist Dr. David Woolley, the main cause of the fire, possibly the accidental dropping of a match or cigarette stubbed out in a polystyrene cup. It was described as the worst fire in the history of British football and the worst stadium disaster in Britain since 65 supporters perished in 1971. In New York City on this date in 1995, more than 170 countries decided to extend the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty indefinitely and without conditions. After taking off from Miami on this date in 1996, a fire started by improperly handled oxygen canisters in the cargo hold of Atlanta-bound ValueJet Flight 592 caused the Douglas DC-9 to crash in the Florida Everglades.
What kind of problem are you having? Smoke in the cabin.
110 people on board, all perished. IBM's Deep Blue chess-playing supercomputer defeated Garry Kasparov on this date in 1997, the last game of their rematch, becoming the first computer to beat a world champion chess player. A dinner honoring former First Lady Nancy Reagan celebrated her life and her accomplishments on this date in 2005.
It brings back many, many memories. I can still see Anwar Sadat in the Rose Garden, Margaret Thatcher, Mikhail Gorbachev, Mother Teresa. So many people, so many historic occasions, so many memories.
Several Washington leaders paid tribute to the former First Lady in the building named for her husband in the nation's capital. Passing away on this date in history, John David Rockefeller, the philanthropist, bluegrass musician Lester Flatt of Flatt and Scruggs, the Dick Tracy cartoonist Chester Gould, and comedian Jerry Stiller. Among birthdays on this date, Irving Berlin.
Come on and hear Alexander's ragtime band.
I'm putting on my top hat, tying up a white tie, brushing off my tail. Isn't this a lovely day to be caught in the rain?
They say that falling in love is wonderful. It's wonderful, so they say.
There's no business like show business, like no business I know.
Blue skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see.
The man asking you to buy your share of freedom today.
When I'm alone with only dreams of you.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits? Putting on the Ritz. Different types to wear a day coat, pants with the stripes and cutaway coat, perfect fits. Putting on the Ritz.
Songs of the great Irving Berlin, born on this date in history. Also born on this date, painter Salvador Dali, the very funny Phil Silvers, Foster Brooks, who didn't drink, but he sure did make a living off of playing a drunk, didn't he? Also, young Uncle Jesse on the Dukes of Hazzard, Denver Pyle, political commentator, comedian Mort Saul, actor Doug McClure, and also actress Natasha Richardson, all born on this date.
Hi, this is Jeff Foxworthy. It is now time for the birthday announcements. The following people are now officially older than dirt.
Eric Burton of Eric Burton and the Animals, 83 years old today. The man who invented the artificial heart, the Jarvik heart anyway, Robert Jarvik, 78 years old. One of the original MTV VJs, Martha Quinn, is 65. And from Tall Girl and Workin' on Netflix, which she starred in and also produced and directed, Sabrina Carpenter, 25. Those are just a few of the people who celebrate the 11th day of May as their birthday, and if this is your birthday...
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Up next, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense, Eddie Bracken starring as the visitor. That's up next on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Are you suffering with anxiety, depression, PTSD, an eating disorder, or even a substance abuse problem? If it's causing problems at work or with your family, get help now. At Insight Mental Health and Wellness, we help and treat all types of depression and mental issues. We will help you use your insurance to get away from it all, to a beautiful, sunny, and tranquil vacation-like environment, so you can recharge yourself. And with the Family Medical Leave Act, you could take the time off you need from work. Plus, with the Affordable Care Act, your treatment could be 100% covered. If you're suffering from any kind of anxiety, depression, PTSD, eating disorder, or even a substance abuse problem, use your insurance and get away from it all. Come to sunny California. Call Insight Mental Health and Wellness now.
800-281-8944. 800-281-8944. 800-281-8944. That's 800-281-8944.
Eddie Bracken, best known as a comedian, in his lead performances in programs Hail the Conquering Hero and The Miracle of Morgan Creek, both movies from 1944, and Broadway, Too Many Girls from 1940. And he was also in National Lampoon's Vacation and movies in the 90s as well. A comedian mostly. Here he's in a serious performance on radio's outstanding theater of thrills Suspense from 80 years ago, May 11th, 1944. He stars as the visitor.
Roma Wines presents
Suspense.
Roma Wines, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
Salud.
Your health, senor. Roma Wines toast the world. The wine for your table is Roma Wine, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
This is the man in black, here for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California, to introduce this weekly half hour of Suspense. Tonight from Hollywood, Roma Wines bring you the Paramount star currently being seen in Miracle of Morgan's Creek, Mr. Eddie Bracken. Mr. Bracken appears tonight not as the exponent of comedy, as which he is so deservedly noted, but as a boy over whose head hung dark clouds of suspicion and who was involved in a particularly heartless crime. And so with The Visitor, and with the performance of Eddie Bracken as a young man who called himself Bud Owen, we again hope to keep you in suspense.
Hamburger steak, well done.
Burn a cat or a crisp?
Right on.
It was around 2 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. I was right in my usual groove, counterman at Al's Coffee Pot, Route 22 out of Baltimore. Not a bad job for a green guy, $18 a week and my meals. But I was aiming to be a short order cook when I really got the hang of things. Of course, I'd only been in the diner a couple of months. Well, as I say, it was the usual afternoon, not especially busy, but busy enough.
No kidding, Mike. Where's that Westerman?
Here you are. What'll you have, mister?
Ham on rye and a cup of coffee.
Coming right up. Ham on rye, draw one.
Look, kid, I'd like to talk to you.
Yeah, what about?
Have you got a minute?
I guess so. Hey, Al, take the counter, will you? I'm going to have some coffee.
Okay.
So what's on your mind, mister?
I'm looking for someone.
Yeah?
Your name wouldn't be Bud Owen, would it?
They call me Bill Duncan around here.
That's not what I asked.
So?
I'm looking for a boy named Bud Owen.
Well, what about it?
Disappeared from his home about 3 years ago. A boy from my town. He'd be about your age now, about 18?
17.
That's it. Well, his folks have been worried sick about him. Everyone else gave him up for dead. Then I heard you were working here. Bud?
Yeah? Who told you?
No one told me. I got a note, anonymous. You didn't write it, did you?
No, I didn't write it.
You know, I think I'd have recognized you anyway. You're a lot taller, of course, and you look older.
Yeah, anyone would, wouldn't they?
Same ears, though.
I call them wings.
That's a good one. Know who I am, of course. Mac Burrell. Used to be chief of police.
Oh, pleased to meet you again, Mr. Burrell.
Well, Bud Owen. A lot of know-it-alls are sure going to be surprised.
Surprised? At what?
Why, to see you. Edgerton is certain to a man that you're feeding fishes off White's Pier. And when they see you, boy, I can't wait.
Look, Mr. Burrell, just what is your proposition?
Why, Bud, I want you to come home again with me.
Oh?
Of course, things have changed some in 3 years, but not too much. If you take it easy, if you have a friend to help you over the rough spots, you'll feel right back at home in no time.
I see.
This way, you're depriving yourself of everything a boy could want. Good home, lovely parents. Yeah, wealthy parents.
You make it sound kind of nice at that, Mr. Burrell.
And, Bud, did you know that your father has offered a $10,000 reward for anyone who finds you?
No, I didn't know that.
Don't you think you ought to come home, Bud?
Maybe I should.
And think of your folks. Think how your poor mother suffered.
Yeah.
Think how happy it'd make them.
Well, Mr. Burl, if you really think it'll be all right.
Why, sure it will. It may be a little tough at first, all the excitement, people staring at you, but that won't last long. You got to expect some excitement.
Oh, I suppose it was an event having a hometown boy drowned.
Drowned, boy? They thought you were murdered.
And so began the series of events which were to bring a boy called Bud Owen back to Edgerton to take up a new life with the family which had believed him dead for 3 years. Tonight for Suspense, Roma Wines present Eddie Bracken, whom you have heard in the prologue to The Visitor by Carl Randau and Leanne Zugsmith. Tonight's tale of Suspense.
In this brief intermission in the play, let's imagine ourselves for a moment in a flower-garlanded Bermuda, seated on the terrace of the exclusive Coral Beach and Tennis Club. At the next table, a party of Bermudians and Americans are taking turns, each paying compliments to the delights of the other's native land. An American has just praised the famed flowers of Bermuda. Then a Bermudian tops him with this. Among great American delights, he says, one of my favorites is right here on our table. It is this splendid wine we are all enjoying. Bermuda imports it from the justly renowned wine districts of California. It is your internationally esteemed Roma wine. Yes, and Americans themselves have certainly not overlooked the great and enjoyable qualities of these fine Roma wines. Proof is, Roma wines are America's largest selling wines. Such outstanding popularity must mean here are wines that are more taste-delighting, more satisfying in their richness and fine wine quality. Yet, with all that as your reward for specifying Roma wines, you'll be amazed and delighted to hear your dealer say, Roma wines cost only pennies a glass. That's because here in America you pay no high import duty or long voyage shipping charges for these fine Roma California wines. Don't fail to enjoy Roma wines. R-O-M-A, Roma, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
And now it is with pleasure that we bring back to our soundstage our star, Eddie Bracken, as Bud Owen in The Visitor, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
After I talked to Mr. Burl for an hour or so, the whole thing sounded pretty darn good. I quit my job at Al's Coffee Pot the next afternoon and met Mr. Burl at the station. We took the 5 o'clock train for Edgerton. On the way, Mr. Burl gave me the lowdown on what had been going on in the town for 3 years. How the town thought I was murdered and how my mother and David Cunningham, my stepfather, just wouldn't give up hope that I was still alive. And he told me how my mother hadn't changed anything in my room. She was so sure I'd come back. Although she bought new stuff for the rest of the house, new rugs and a couch, things like that, Mr. Burl described it so plain I could almost see it. Well, by the time we got to Edgerton, I was feeling pretty sad for my mother. And when I stood on the dark front porch with Mr. Burl, it was a peach of a warm summer night. I thought if I could make her happy, even if it was tough on me, it was worth a try.
Brace yourself, youngster. This is it.
Yeah, sure. I'm okay, Mr. Burl.
That you, Burl? Yeah. And here's Bud.
Bud. Hello, Father.
Come in, Bud. Here, let me have your suitcase. Is your mother, Bud?
Bud.
Hello, Mother.
Bud.
This time it's really Bud, Judith. He's come back to us.
Oh, Bud. Bud.
It's all right, Judith.
Oh, my big baby. Why, you're so tall I can hardly kiss you.
Well, now, come, Judith. Let's go into the living room. Come along, Burl.
Oh, I always knew I'd be silly when you came back. Here, let me push your hair down.
Oh,
Now you look more like my Bud.
Gosh, I wouldn't have recognized this room. Isn't that couch new?
Mm-hmm. And the rugs and drapes.
I don't know how we'll ever be able to thank you, Burl.
Why, seeing Judith so happy is reward enough.
Oh, yes. That reminds me. Drop into my office tomorrow, Burl, and I'll take care of that other, more tangible reward.
Mother, I I don't know how to begin. I mean to tell you how sorry.
Oh, don't tell me anything, darling. Nothing matters except that you're back.
That's the spirit, Judith.
Only your right hand, Bud. It's all bandaged.
Oh, that's nothing. I burned it while working in the diner. It's nothing, Mother.
Well, folks, it's been a long day for an old man. I guess I'll run along.
Right away, Mr. Burrow? Why, you just got here.
You'll be seeing plenty of me, Bud. Right now, though, you should want to be getting acquainted with your folks again. I'll see you tomorrow, Dave. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Well, have you noticed, Judith, how deep Bud's voice is now?
Yes, it was just a little pipe when he left. But it was beginning to break, wasn't it, Bud?
Gosh, I guess so. It must have sounded pretty awful.
And he shaves, David. Every day, Snooky?
Well, gosh, not quite.
Really, David, I don't think that's so funny.
Oh,
that sounds like Ellen. Isn't that nice? Let her in, David.
Yeah.
Ellen Woods?
Why, who else, Bud?
Does she live next door?
Why, of course, Bud. The Woods have always lived there.
Hello, Ellen.
Ellen, dear, we have such a surprise.
Angel, it's simply fabulous. Let me kiss you, you love.
Ouch, take it easy.
Why, Bud, you're gigantic, a regular beanpole. Oh, but I can't wait for Joe to see you.
Joe?
I called him as soon as I heard he's coming over here. It's all right, Mrs. Cunningham.
Oh, of course, Ellen. I'd forgotten. It'll mean so much to Joe. You know about Joe, Bud.
Oh, yes. Mr. Burrow told me. I didn't know before.
Yes, this town's going to have a lot to make up to that young man.
My folks wouldn't let me see Joe, Bud.
Yeah?
Well, naturally, they thought, after all, Joe was the last person who saw you, and then he admitted you'd quarreled.
But your mother and I never had a moment's doubt, Bud. I'm thankful for that.
Oh, that's Joe now. Joe, it's true. Bud's here.
On Ellen's phone, I ran all the way. She said... You.
Yeah, Joe, it's me.
Yeah. Guess it is.
Well, pal, I hear I owe you an apology or something.
Skip it, pal.
Joe, we know how hard it's been for you. Only now it's over.
Well, it didn't matter, Mrs. Cunningham. I've learned to put up with a lot.
Yeah, well, Judith, dear, let's go upstairs. Let's give the young folks a chance to be by themselves.
Well, all right, David. But don't stay up too long,
No.
Bud. You still need lots of sleep.
Yeah, I won't, Mother.
And don't forget to turn off the light.
No.
Good night, children.
Good night, Miss
Good
Cunningham.
night.
Mr. Cunningham.
Well, what'll we do? Cut a rug or chew the fat?
Suit yourself.
Joe, don't talk that way to Bud. You might remember he's my friend. He certainly was yours.
Yeah? Yeah, I guess he was.
Look, Joe, I can see how you saw it in me, but don't take it out on Ellen.
Kindly don't stop messing between Ellen and me.
Joe, please.
Okay. Do I have to make a speech? So you're home now, Bud. I'm the last one to kick, but when you toss it all off by saying you owe me an apology or something, maybe it's not easy to remember we were friends.
I didn't know what to say.
I know I tried to remember we were friends, and the whole town was sure I'd killed you. I tried to remember it when the draft board listed me as undesirable because they thought I was guilty. I even tried to remember we were friends when, for 3 years, people crossed the street so they wouldn't have to speak to me. People got up and walked out of the room when I came in, and they...
Gosh, Joe, I didn't realize that. I am sorry, Joe, honest.
Now listen, Joe. You should be the first one to walk around the town with Bud. Right tomorrow morning. And if you'd both like it, why, I'll go with you.
Well, if it's all right with Bud.
Oh, is it? Boy, I'm going to need company.
Then it's a date.
Okay, no kidding, Bud. I'm glad you're home, fella. No hard feelings?
Oh, gosh, no, Joe.
So long, Bud.
Bye, Bud.
So long.
Bud,
Yes, Mother?
are you coming up to bed now, dear?
Why, yeah, I might just as well.
You know, Bud, I've been thinking. The funniest thing.
What? What's that, Mother?
Do you realize you've never even asked about Trixie?
Trixie? That's right, I didn't.
After all, she was your dog.
Oh.
You know what they say about a boy and his dog. Poor thing, when you didn't come back, she just wandered off.
Gee, that's tough, all right.
And you didn't even ask about her. But I guess you can't be expected to remember everything.
No, I guess I can't remember everything. My mother kissed me goodnight. I went upstairs to my room, and it was just like Mr. Burrow told me it would be. Everything seemed to have gone all right so far. I undressed and turned out the lights, but before I got into bed, I I locked the door just in case. Gosh, I guess I'm late for breakfast.
That's all right, darling. We know you needed the sleep.
Sit right in your old place, Bud.
Yeah, sure.
Well, your mother and I have been mooning over old pictures of you, son.
Bud, except for the ears and something around the eyes, you've changed so that I can hardly recognize you. Look, here's the last picture before you went away. Why, it's almost frightening the way you've grown.
Well, Judith, dear, you wouldn't want the boy to be a midget, would you?
Well.
Sure, he's taller, but look at the hair there and the way he stands.
I sure was a goon, boy. You should have been glad to get rid of me.
And look, Bud, what else I found. All your school compositions from the first grade on. Here's one you wrote on Alexander the Great.
Ouch, Mother, don't be careless with those things. I'll die of blushing.
Why, Bud, I think this was very good for your age. You were barely 14 when you wrote it. See, it's marked B, so it can't be so terrible.
Well, your least little scribble is a great thing to your mother. Well, I'd better get off to the office. Drop in to see me if you have time, Bud.
Why, sure, Father, I'll do that.
Bye, Judith, honey. I'll be home for dinner.
Goodbye, David. Now, how about some hot coffee, Bud?
Yes, thanks.
There, Snooky. Bud, there's something important I want to discuss with you. It's about my will.
Your will?
Well, you know how your father, David, was about my money, Bud. He never wanted to touch it or even to have me put him in my will. He's so proud about things like that, and I do have so much more than he ever will.
Sure, I remember. How much money is it anyway?
Why, you know, Bud, there's about $150,000 your grandfather left.
Yeah.
Then there are those 4 houses on Elm Street that Aunt Carolyn left and the income from them. I haven't used any of it, so it amounts to quite a lot by now.
Gosh, yes, it must at that.
Well, after you left, even though David didn't want me to, I changed the will, leaving everything to him.
Why, sure, that sounds fine to me.
But now that you're back, I think the best thing would be to just turn it all over to you now. Set up a trust fund. You could use the income when you start to college, and later maybe you'll want to set yourself up in some kind of business.
But,
and I know it will please David.
But, Mother, gee whiz, it's swell of you, but don't you think you should wait?
Wait? For what, darling?
Well, until you know me better. I mean, gosh, I wouldn't know what to do with all that money, and I might mess things up.
Why, silly, the bank takes care of everything. It always has for me. Now, all you have to do is sign these papers here.
Sign them? But I can't, Mother. You see my hand, the bandage.
Oh, isn't that a shame? Yes, I forgot that you couldn't write.
Well, it'll be all right in a couple of days, so I can take the bandage off then.
Oh, somebody's whistling for you, Bud. My, that sounds like old times.
It's Ellen and Joe. They're going to take me around and show me the town. Well, I guess I have to face the music.
Oh, you know you love it. You're going to be a regular hero.
Yeah, but I don't feel much like a hero now.
Now you're in for it, Bud.
Oh, Bud, you're really real, and you've grown but divine.
Hey, you're choking me.
Oh, I've just been telling everybody you're back. It's too sensational. It's like having a new boy in town, and do we need some?
Gosh, I shouldn't think you'd have any trouble. Why, you're cuter than ever.
Oh, listen to him. He's got a line. Gee, he sends me. Is that something?
The best thing you ever called her before was buzzard egg.
Well, gosh, I called her something beside that once in a while.
Well, you did call her Mary Louise.
Well, of course I called her that. Gee, it's swell to see you, Mary Louise.
Bud Owen, you bad boy. Are you going to recognize me or aren't you?
Sure, gee, it's good to see you. How are you anyway?
Now, you're not too grown up to kiss old Mrs. Callahan the way you always did.
Oh, I'll say I'm not Mrs. Callahan here.
Why, I heated enough bottles for you and washed enough of your diapers, too, so don't let me catch you putting on airs.
No, ma'am, I won't.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
What's the matter? Didn't you recognize her?
Mrs. Callahan? Oh, of course I did.
Why didn't you call her what you always used to? Couldn't you see she was sore?
Well, I did.
Bud, you used to call her Aunt Celie.
Well.
I couldn't believe it, but I daren't refute the evidence of my senses. It's the Owen boy, Bud Owen.
Well, I'm glad to see you, sir.
I just saw your mother. Heard you were back. She told me she was bringing you down to my office in a day or two.
Yeah, she told me.
Your mother's 1 in a million, young man. She thinks only of your welfare. I hope you've learned to appreciate her.
Yes, sir, I have.
Well, I just wanted to check on the news. And no nonsense, my boy. You do as your mother says.
What did he mean, no nonsense?
Don't you know?
Well, I guess so. Mother told me she was going to take me down to the lawyer's office this morning.
Bud.
I've been waiting for you to outsmart yourself, and this is it.
I don't get it.
You sure don't, Bud.
Give him a chance, Joe.
Because it so happens that's not Mr. Reedy, the lawyer, but Dr. Sterling, the dentist.
I talked fast, and Ellen took my side. And when we got Joe calmed down, I knew he was going to watch me like a hawk from then on. That afternoon, Ellen got the real snazzy idea of going to the beach. My father knocked off work and drove us down, sort of to celebrate my homecoming. It was really a hot day, so when we got there, the others made a beeline for the water, but I didn't because of my bandaged hand. I stayed around the beach club near the pool. When it began to get dark, we all dressed and went down to White's restaurant for seafood dinner. Then we walked out on the pier. The same pier where I was supposed to have been murdered. I remember I said something about taking the body back to where X marks the spot, and everybody laughed.
Isn't it heavenly out here?
Oh, gee, this breeze is swell.
Well, Bud, looks like you and Joe are right back where you were 3 years ago.
Yeah, I guess so, Father.
Yeah, this railing is just where we stood, isn't it? When you and I had our fight.
Yeah, about.
What's that phobia people have looking down from tall buildings? I get it looking down at the water from up here.
Oh, you shouldn't worry, Ellen. You swim like a fish. Now, me, I should really feel funny.
About ready to go home, children? I don't want Judith to worry you.
All right, Mr. Cunningham. It's been such a heavenly day.
Bud, wait a minute.
Come on, Joe.
Wait, there are a couple of things I want to talk to you about.
Later, Joe, Ellen, and Father.
Only take a minute. First, about your not being able to swim.
But, Joe, you knew about that. I never learned. That was why...
Sure. Everybody knew Bud Owen couldn't swim. That was why, when you disappeared, they thought I'd pushed you off the pier and you drowned.
Joe, I don't get it. Can't you let bygones be bygones?
Bud Owen couldn't swim. But this afternoon, when you thought we were all at a good, safe distance, I walked up the beach club looking for you, and I saw you swimming in the pool.
But I learned.
And your bandage was off. We'll start talking. Or do I have to do the talking? To the cops?
Listen, Joe, you gotta wait. You gotta give me time.
Now, don't get me wrong. No one in this town would be gladder to have Bud Owen come back than me. After all, I've taken plenty because he disappeared, but rather than let Mrs. Cunningham be fooled...
That's what I mean, Joe. You gotta give me time to square things. Just a little time.
You better move fast, brother.
Joe, no matter what you think, you know I haven't hurt anybody.
No, not yet.
And if you give me time, nobody will be hurt. I went to Mr. Burrell the next morning and talked about everything, how people were beginning to make cracks about him and the $10,000 reward and the whole mess. I knew things were moving awfully fast, and I told Mr. Burrell he had to help me. That night, when she'd finished her coffee, my mother said she was awfully tired, and my father, David, saw her upstairs to bed. I looked out the window, and I saw Mr. Burrell's car pull up to the curb in front of Ellen's house. I knew he was going to do everything he could, but by this time, I was scared. Well, at bedtime, my stepfather fixed some sandwiches and we drank some milk. Then he came up to my room with me and we sat down to talk.
Well, I see your mother's been changing your room around. It's not bad.
I guess women like to fuss around and so forth.
That's a fact. And there's no use opposing them.
I guess that's right.
By the way, what's your real name?
Bud Owen.
You don't need to be afraid of me. I've protected you so far.
Why have you?
I asked you first. What's your real name?
Bud Owen.
You're stubborn, aren't you? You know, at first I thought you'd work this little scheme out all by yourself or with Burrell. But there's someone else involved, isn't there?
Who do you think?
What about that bandage?
Well...
Take it off. Well. Not even a scar. I don't suppose you'd mind writing with it now that it's healed.
No, I don't mind. What shall I write?
Well, suppose we take this little composition of yours on Alexander the Great. Would you copy this sentence Say on the top of page 3?
Sure. Why not?
Yes, and to make it a fair comparison, write your name, Bud Owen.
Bud Owen. Here you are.
So she taught you Bud's handwriting, too.
Who did?
My wife. Do you think I didn't know what was going on? Every move she made gave her away. Why is she in such a rush to change her will?
I don't know. Why?
She thought she was being so smart, trying to pass you off, trying to trap me. But I was one person who knew you weren't Bud.
Yeah, but what makes you so sure I'm not Bud?
I know. Isn't that enough?
I see.
I know.
I see. Well, don't you think we'd better get my mother in on this?
Yes. Yes, I think perhaps we'd better. She's asleep. You don't have to wake her.
Mother. Mother. Hey, she's... Mother! When I came to, I had an awful pain in the head. I was in my room in bed, and Ellen and Joe and Mr. Burrell were there. For a minute, I didn't know what had happened, and then I remembered. Mother. Where's my mother?
She's all right, Bud. She's in the hospital. He gave her enough of those sleeping pills to kill a horse, but she's all right now.
How do you feel, Bud?
Oh, all right, I guess.
Oh, it's a good thing you had us standing by tonight, son. Why, he had you trussed up like a turkey. He was going to hang you.
Gee, Mr. Burrell, he must have been crazy. I guess he wanted to get us both out of the way before Mother could change that will.
For crying out loud, Bud, why didn't you let me in on this? I thought...
Gee, I hated to do it, Joe, honest. But I had to. Someone had to be the guinea pig.
It was my idea, Joe. I sent the note to Mr. Burrell. I really found Bud in that hash house.
Yeah, but if you'd let me in on it...
We knew if Bud could fool you. If you thought he was a phony, he could fool everybody, even David Cunningham.
You see, Joe, for 3 years I suspected that guy. He pushed me off the pier that night, but I was only a kid. I knew it'd be just his word against mine, so I ran away. I kept putting off coming home, but I swore that someday I'd trap him, and tonight I did. Because he said he knew I wasn't Bud Owen, I knew that he thought he'd kill me.
You took one whale of a chance tonight, Bud. He'd framed you pretty. Another half hour, and we'd have found your mother dead, you strung up, and that suicide note you wrote propped up on the dresser.
Yeah, suicide note? Why, I just copied a sentence out of an old composition, something about Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great? Listen to this. It is terrible what awful crimes are done for greed and ambition. Signed, Bud Owen.
Sure, you see? I was just writing...
What? And I signed that? Holy...
Well, that's about all. I didn't know how my mother would take it, having my stepfather turn out to be such a heel, but once she got over the dope he'd slept her, she was fine, as happy as a lark over me. Joe and Ellen, they got married but quick, and now Joe's in the Marines, and me, I'm just passing the time here in Edgerton till I'm 18 and my number comes up, and then maybe I'll see a little excitement.
And so closes The Visitor, starring Eddie Bracken, tonight's tale of Suspense. Suspense is produced by William Spear. Before Mr. Bracken returns to the microphone, here's a definition of yourself.
Connoisseur, one competent to act as a critical judge of an art or in a matter of taste. That's what Webster says. So that makes you a wine connoisseur, because certainly you are competent to act as a critical judge of a wine's taste. Matter of fact, all you have to know to be a true wine connoisseur in the opinion of your friends and guests is a single word, Roma, R-O-M-A. To get the proof, make your own taste test of the tangy, appetizing Roma Sherry, the hearty, satisfying Roma Burgundy, the heavier, sweeter Roma Port, or any of the many different delicious Roma California wines. If your favorite dealer is temporarily out of the kind of Roma wine you prefer, ask for it again, please. Just be sure to say R-O-M-A, Roma Wines, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
This is Eddie Bracken, and this is one of those nights I'll certainly remember for a long time. I've always hoped, A, to be allowed to play a real, genuine, dramatic role, and B, it's been an ambition of mine to get a crack at this show, Suspense, because, well, I think it's tops. The next 2 broadcasts in this series should be particularly interesting. I know I won't miss either of them, because Orson Welles is going to star in that very thrilling story, Donovan's Brain, which will be done in 2 parts. 1 part next Thursday, and part 2 the following week. And one more word, don't forget to buy some war bonds.
Eddie Bracken will soon be seen in Paramount's Hail the Conquering Hero. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Orson Welles in Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
From 80 years ago, May 11th, 1944, Suspense here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Coming up tomorrow, comedy with my friend Irma, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, The Great Gildersleeve, The Magnificent Montague, and another episode of Superman with a brand new story. Right now, though, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll hear about the enormous radio.
President Biden recently released a massive $6 trillion budget, the largest budget in U.S. history. And guess who pays the bill? That's right, you, the American taxpayer. American citizens and business owners will be paying more taxes. That's a fact. And if you owe back taxes, they will be coming after you to collect payments. In fact, President Biden also hired thousands more IRS agents to go after you. If you got a letter from the IRS and you know you owe back taxes or you haven't filed in years, don't put your head in the sand. Call us today. We've saved our customers millions of tax dollars. One quick, free phone call will show you how we can reduce your past tax bill and save you thousands. Guaranteed, or you pay nothing. Call now.
800-932-1431. 800-932-1431. That's 800-932-1431. Paid for by the Tax Helpline.
The CBS Radio Workshop, pretty much the last gasp of original drama on the radio. And this episode, an adaptation of a short story by author John Cheever, first appeared in the May 17, 1947 issue of the New Yorker magazine. Later, it was collected in a couple of compilations of short stories of John Cheever. It would appear a number of years later in television in 1987 on Tales of the Dark Side, and it appeared on this episode of the CBS Radio Workshop, going back 68 years to May 11th, 1956. The narration by William Conrad of The Enormous Radio.
CBS Radio presents the CBS Radio Workshop, dedicated to man's imagination, the theater of the mind. Tonight, The Enormous Radio, based on John Cheever's extraordinary short story, which originally appeared in the pages of the New Yorker magazine.
Irene, don't you want to hear The Workshop? It's a pretty good show.
Oh, I feel like music, don't you? It's the Schubert Ferellum, isn't it?
Yeah. All right, leave it on. A little louder, though, will you?
Jem and Irene Westcott were the kind of people who seemed to strike that satisfactory average of income, endeavor, and respectability that is reached by the statistical reports and college alumni bulletins. They differed from their friends, their classmates, and their neighbors only in an interest they shared in serious music. They went to a great many concerts, although they seldom mentioned this to anyone, and they spent a good deal of time listening to music on the radio. Now, their radio was an old instrument, sensitive, unpredictable, and beyond repair. And when it faltered, Jim would strike at the side of the cabinet with his hand. Well, this sometimes helped. But one Sunday afternoon,
Darling, the radio.
Oh, Lord. No, this time it's finished.
Bang it again.
Oh, it's finished. It's just burned out.
Might not be. How do you know? Try reversing the plug or something.
But it won't do any good. It's a miracle it lasted this long.
Let me try.
That's not going to do any good now.
A woman's touch.
All right. Why don't you sit down? It'll... Yeah. See, there it goes.
It's so aggravating. And of course it had to happen while they were playing the Schubert.
Take it easy.
Well, it makes me mad. We knew this was going to happen. We should have done something.
I told you what the repairman said, honey. It'd cost almost as much to fix it as to buy a new one.
Darling, couldn't we get a new one?
I don't know. We agreed to get along with this until we could get a good hi-fi with some FM.
Please. It's not going to be much fun without music.
All right. All right, dear. I'll look around tomorrow, see what I can find.
The next day, on Monday, when he came home from work, he told her that he'd got one. He refused to describe it and said that it would be a surprise for her when it came. The radio was delivered the following afternoon, and with the assistance of her maid and the handyman, Irene uncrated
You
it
hold this, Emma. Oh, yes,
and brought it into the
Take
living
your
room.
stuff in the kitchen later.
Oh, this sure is a heavy
Not a very
one.
pretty cabinet.
Oh, man, look at all the dials on it. I never could get the hang of that.
Well, it shouldn't be too difficult, I suppose. Volume, treble, boost, bass boost, tuning, shortwave, band 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, well, this must be the switch to turn it on. Yes. Plug it in now, will you, Emma?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
All right. Probably takes a minute to warm up.
It is loud, isn't it, ma'am? Much louder than the old one.
Yes. It'll take a little getting used to, tuning it in.
My, you certainly do know how to find good music, I'll say.
It is nice. Well, you better see about getting supper now.
Yes, ma'am.
She sat down to listen, feeling once again complete. The music came through clearly. The new instrument had a much purer tone, she thought, than the old one. Well, she decided that tone was most important, and she could conceal the ugly gumwood cabinet behind the sofa. But as soon as she had made her peace with the radio, the interference began.
Oh, dear. And they call this hi-fi.
Nothing she did with the switches and dials dimmed the interference. As she sat down again, disappointed and bewildered, and tried to trace the flight of the melody. The elevator shaft in her building ran beside the living room wall, and it was the noise of the elevator that gave her a clue to the character of the static. The rattling of the elevator cables were reproduced in her loudspeaker. And realizing that the radio was sensitive to electrical currents of all sorts, she began to discern through the Mozart the various other sounds. By listening more carefully, she was able to distinguish doorbells, elevator bells, electric razors, and wearing mixers picked up from the apartments that surrounded her. The powerful and ugly instrument, with its mistaken sensitivity to discord, was more than she could hope to master, so she turned the thing off.
Hello?
Hello, Irene. Did it get there?
Oh, the radio. Yes, dear.
Well, how do you like it?
Well, it's fine, but...
But what?
Well, there's all kinds of sounds, noises coming through.
What do you mean? Like static?
Well, yes, but more like real noises.
Hmm?
I think it's picking up all the electric things in the building. Bells, vacuums,
Well,
telephones.
you better not fool with it until I get home. It probably needs a ground or something.
All right. I think it's wonderful, dear. Much nicer than the old one. When it's clear, the music sounds beautiful.
Oh, good. Well, I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
When Jim Westcott came home that night, he went to the radio confidently, worked the controls.
Who's it?
The low-pressure area, which developed over the southwest yesterday, is moving rapidly toward the north and east, with lower temperatures following.
What the devil?
That's what I was telling
The
you.
city's current reading is 58. Kansas City, 54.
He fiddled with the knobs.
Chicago, 54. Detroit, 55.
Couldn't get rid of the noise.
54 and rainy. Toledo, 56.
And he turned the radio off.
Oh, to heck with it, huh? I'll call the fellow who sold it to me in the morning. He's going to hear something from me.
The following day, Irene had a luncheon date and did some shopping during the afternoon. It was late when she returned home, and she didn't have a chance to turn on the radio, although the maid informed her that a man had come and fixed it. She busied herself with the children, seeing to their baths and bedtime. When Jim came home that night, he was tired and took a shower and changed his clothes, and then he joined Irene in the living room. He had just turned on the radio when the maid announced dinner, so he left it on, and he and Irene went to the table.
I saw the sweetest dress this afternoon. Of course, I didn't buy
Well,
it,
that's
but
just as well. I mean, we better go slow for a bit.
Hard day, dear.
Yeah, you had a rotten day.
Music does sound nice, doesn't it?
Very nice.
For heaven's sake, Kathy, do you always have to play the piano when I get home?
Well, it's the only chance I have. I'm at the office all day.
So am I. I wish you'd.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, but it's probably a play.
I don't think it is a play.
What's the matter? Where are you going?
I want to see what that was.
Well, try another station.
This country.
Hey, have you seen my garters?
Button me up.
I said, have you seen my garters?
Just button me up and I'll find your garters.
All right, all right.
Is that a radio show?
I don't know.
Here, let me see.
I wish you wouldn't leave apple cores in the ashtray. I hate the smell.
What the devil is this?
On the coast of Coromandel, where the early pumpkins blow, in the middle of the woods lived the youngy-bongy beau. 2 old chairs and half a candle, 1 old jug without a handle.
That's
These
the Sweeney's
were all
nurse.
his
What?
worldly
Turn that thing
goods.
off. Maybe they can hear us. That was Miss Armstrong, the Sweeney's nurse. She must be reading to the little girl. They live in 17B. I've talked to her in the park. I know her voice. We must be getting other people's apartments.
That's impossible.
Well, that was Sweeney's nurse. I know her voice. I know it very
All right, now,
well.
wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Lady Jingly, sitting where the pumpkins blow.
Maybe they can hear
You can't
us.
Be my
How can
wife. I'm tired of living singly on this
Hello?
coast so wild and singly.
Hello?
I'm a weary of my life. If you'd come and be my wife,
I guess she
quite
can't hear us.
serene would
Try
be my
something
life.
else.
Right.
Eat some more sandwiches.
Oh, sure, I'd love some. That did it.
Those must be the Hutchinsons in 15B. I knew they were giving a party this afternoon. I saw her in the liquor store. Isn't this divine? Try something else.
All right, wait a
See if you
minute,
can
wait a
get those
minute.
people in 18C.
Fly, you know, and the other fellow's using salmon.
2 no trump.
Pass. 3 no trump.
Double. And look at George in the grass skirt. Isn't that...
The Westcotts overheard that evening a monologue on salmon fishing in Canada, a bridge game, running comments on home movies, and a bitter family quarrel about an overdraft at the bank. They turned off the radio at midnight, went to bed, weak with laughter. Sometime in the night, their son began to call for a glass of water, and Irene got one and took it into his room. It was very early. From his window, all the lights in the neighborhood were extinguished. She went into the living room and turned on the radio.
Are you all right, darling?
Yes. I'm all right, I guess.
But you know, Charlie, I don't feel like myself anymore. Sometimes there are only, about 15 or 20 minutes in the week when I feel like myself. I don't like to go to another doctor. The doctor bills are so awful already, but I just don't feel like myself, Charlie. I just never feel like myself.
Oh, dear. How sad. How terribly sad.
The following morning, after her children and husband had been carried away in the elevator, she went into the living room and tried the radio again.
You are going to school this morning, my girl, and that's all there is to it. Look, we paid $800 to get you into that school, and you'll go if it kills you.
If you think he's so hot, why don't you just tell us?
Oh, sure. I can just see you. You'd like that, wouldn't you? That's what you're waiting for. You'd like me to do something like that, the kind of thing you've been doing.
Huh?
You think I don't know? You think I don't smell that perfume on you when you get home from work? Work! You think I haven't seen the lipstick on your handkerchief?
That's
you
the
look through
Johnsons.
my pockets again, I'll break your arm. Thanks for a lousy breakfast and indigestion. I may see you tonight and I may not.
Go on. Get out. Go on. Stay out all night.
Maybe I will.
Irene shifted the control and invaded the privacy of several breakfast tables. She overheard demonstrations of indigestion, love, abysmal vanity, faith, and despair. Her life was nearly as simple and sheltered as it appeared to be, and the forthright and sometimes brutal language that came from this loudspeaker the morning there astonished and troubled her. She continued to listen until her maid came in, and then she turned the radio off quickly, since this insight, she realized, was a furtive one. She had a luncheon date with a friend that day and didn't get home until after 2:30. For some reason, she felt strangely disturbed.
Hello.
Oh, hello, dear. I expected Miss Cummings.
No, she's out getting me some coffee, honey.
My, what an efficient secretary.
Something wrong?
No. You won't forget we're going out for dinner tonight.
No, I won't forget. Look, dear, I'm rather busy.
Oh, I'm sorry, dear.
No, that's all right.
Oh, the funniest thing.
What?
When I went out for lunch, there were some people in the apartment elevator. It was the funniest thing. I kept
Honey,
wondering...
will you tell me about it later? I haven't got time now. Huh? I'll see you about 7.
Give the best scotch to anyone who hasn't white hair. And see if you can get rid of that liver paste before you pass those hot things.
As the afternoon waned, the conversations increased in intensity. On her radio, she could hear the arrival of cocktail guests, the return of children and businessmen from their schools and offices. The voices swirled around her.
I found a good-sized diamond on the bathroom floor this morning. It must have fallen out of that bracelet Mrs. Dunstan was wearing last night.
Let me see it.
Here it is.
We'll sell it. We'll take it down to the jeweler on Madison Avenue and sell it. Well, Mrs. Dunstan won't know the difference, and we could use a couple of $100, I'll tell you.
No. How horrible.
Oranges and lemons, say the bells of St. Clemens. Halfpence and farthings, say the bells of St. Martin's. When will you pay me, say the bells at Old Bailey.
It's not a hat. It's not a hat, it's a love affair. Oh, that's what Walter Florell said. He said it's not a hat, it's a love affair.
Talk just
somebody, honey. Talk to somebody. If she catches you standing here not talking to anyone, she'll take us off her invitation list, and I love these parties.
I hate these things. I think they stink.
I love them.
The Westcotts were going out for dinner, and when Jim came home, Irene was dressing. She seemed sad and vague, and he brought her a drink. They were dining with friends in the neighborhood, and they walked to where they were going. It was one of those splendid spring evenings that excite memory and desire. And the air that touched their hands and faces felt very soft. A Salvation Army band was on the corner playing.
They're really such nice people, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
They have such nice faces. Actually, they're so much nicer than a lot of people we know.
She took a bill out of her purse and walked over and dropped it into the tambourine. There was, in her face, when she returned to her husband, a look of radiant melancholy that he was not familiar with. And her conduct at the dinner party seemed strange to him, too. She interrupted her hostess.
I don't agree with you. I think you're absolutely wrong. Completely wrong.
Stared at people across the table from her with an intensity for which she would have punished her children. She waited that night until Jim had fallen asleep, and then went into the living room and turned on the radio.
Oh, I'm so tired. I'm absolutely dead.
Well, maybe if we could get home one night in the week before 1 o'clock, you wouldn't be set then.
I know, but we had to go to the party, and I don't want to play that record.
The next day, she had a slight headache and didn't keep an appointment she had. At 2 o'clock, Jim called her from the office.
Everything all right?
Yes, I suppose so.
Aren't you feeling well?
I've got a bit of a headache.
Oh. What'd you find out about the car?
No, I didn't.
Well, I asked you to be sure to, honey. We won't get it until tomorrow now. Now, will you please call them right away and tell them I've got to have it by tomorrow?
Yes.
Irene, did you hear me?
I said yes.
What's the matter with you?
I've got a headache.
You've been listening to that radio all morning, haven't you? Now, look, fun's fun, but you're running it into the ground, honey. It's not good for you. Now, please, keep the thing off, will you?
All right.
You promise?
All right.
Jim came home at about 6 that night. Emma, the maid, let him in, and he had taken off his hat and was taking off his coat when Irene ran into the hall.
Go up to 16C, Jim.
What?
Don't take off your coat. Go up to 16C. Mr. Osborne's beating his wife. They've been quarreling since 4 o'clock, and now he's hitting her. Go up there and stop it.
Cut it out. Stop it. You don't have to listen to this sort of thing, you know.
Oh.
It's indecent. It's like looking in windows. You know you don't have to listen to this sort of thing. You can just turn it off.
Horrible. It's so dreadful. I've been listening all day.
Honey, why do you listen to it? Why? I bought the filthy thing to give you some pleasure. I paid a lot for it. I thought it might make you happy. I wanted to make you happy.
No. Don't quarrel with me, please. Please. All the others have been quarreling all day. Everybody's quarreling. They're all worried about money. Mrs. Hutchinson's mother's dying in Florida, and they don't have enough money to send her to the Mayo Clinic. And Mrs. Melville has heart trouble, and some woman is playing around with the superintendent. It's disgusting. And Mr. Hendricks is going to lose his job. And that girl who plays the Missouri Waltz all the time. And Mr. Osborne beating Mrs. Osborne.
Irene, listen to me. Why do you have to turn it on? Why do you have to listen to that stuff? It makes you so miserable.
No, don't. Life is too terrible. It's too sordid and too awful. But we've never been like that, have we, darling? Have we? I mean, we've always been good and decent and loving, haven't we? And we have 2 children. Beautiful children. Our lives aren't sordid, are they, darling? Are they? We're happy, aren't we? We are happy.
Of course we're happy, darling, of course. Now, look, I'll have the fool radio fixed or taken away tomorrow. Come on. It's all right, honey. It's all right. Come on.
You love me, don't you? And we're not hypercritical or worried about money or dishonest, are we?
No. Darling, no.
A man came in the morning and fixed the radio. And Irene was happy to hear a recording of the Beethoven Ninth, including Schiller's Ode to Joy. She kept the radio on all day, and nothing untoward came from the speaker. Debussy's La Mer was being played when Jim came home, and they went into dinner. His face was pale, she thought.
I paid the bill for the radio today. It was $400. I just hope you get some enjoyment out of it.
I'm sure I will, darling.
Well, $400 is a good deal more than I can afford. But I wanted to get something you'd enjoy. It's the last extravagance we'll be able to indulge ourselves in this year.
All right, dear, of course. I understand.
Maureen, by the way, I noticed you hadn't paid your clothing bills yet. I saw them on your dressing table.
Oh, I suppose I must have forgotten.
Well, why did you tell me you'd paid them? Why did you lie to me?
Well, I just didn't want to worry you, Jim. I'll be able to pay my bills out of this month's allowance. There were slip covers last month from that party we had to give.
Well, you just got to learn to handle the money I give you a little more intelligently, Irene.
Yes, darling, I will. I really will.
You just got to understand that we won't have as much money this year as we had last, right? I had a very sobering talk with Mitchell today. No one's buying anything. We're spending all our time promoting new issues, and you know how long that takes. I'm not getting any younger, you know. I'm 37, and I haven't done as well as I hoped I'd do. I don't suppose things will get any better.
Yes, dear.
We just got to start cutting down. Start thinking of the children. To be perfectly frank with you, I worry about money a great deal. I'm not at all sure of the future. No one is. I've worked very hard to give you and the children a comfortable life, and I don't like to see all that energy wasted in fur coats, radios, and slip covers.
Please, Jim, please, they'll hear us.
Who'll hear us? Emma can't hear us.
The radio.
Radio? I'm sick of it. I'm sick to death of you. That radio can't hear us. Nobody can hear us. And what if they can hear us? Who cares? Why are you so holier than thou all of a sudden? What's turned you overnight into a nice girl? You stole your mother's jewelry before they probated her will. You never gave your sister a cent of that money that was intended for her. Not even when she needed it.
Irene stood for a minute before the hideous radio, disgraced and sickened. But she held her hand on the switch before she extinguished the music, hoping that the instrument might speak to her kindly, that she might hear the Sweeney's nurse. And as she turned the dial, the voice on the radio was suave and noncommittal.
Buffalo. A fire in a hospital near Buffalo for the care of blind children was put out early this morning. There were several injuries, but no fatalities. And that's the news. The temperature downtown is 64. Humidity, 90. And now an interlude of music.
The CBS Radio Workshop has presented The Enormous Radio by John Cheever, produced and directed by Anthony Ellis. The script was adapted for radio by Mr. Ellis. The cast included William Conrad, Virginia Gregg, Stacey Harris, Eve McVeigh, Hans Conried, Charlotte Lawrence, Joseph Kearns, Paula Winslow, Herb Butterfield, Helen Klebe, George Walsh, and Irene Tedrow. Special effects were by Robert Chadwick, Bill James, and Clark Casey. This is Hugh Douglas inviting you to join us again next week when from New York we present a special production by the Helen Hayes Drama Group, Lovers, Villains, and Fools, with the famous actress as narrator. The title of the piece is derived from the three principal categories of character portrayals, which are basic equipment for which members of this theater group strive. The narration is written by Albert G. Miller. Special music has been composed and will be conducted by Alex Steinert. That's next week on the CBS Radio Workshop. How many people are there in a crowd of 10 million? Do you have any picture in your mind, or is that figure too overwhelming? Well, 10 million is more people than there are in Chicago, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles combined. And that's how many men, women, and children in our country are suffering from some form of mental illness. Yes, 10 million. Among that 10 million, maybe there's someone you know, a neighbor, friend, or a relative. So you see, mental illness is a problem that concerns us all. And that's why we are all being asked to give to our local mental health campaign to fight mental illness. The best weapon is research. Research to find out how to prevent mental illness. Your doctors can be helped by your dollars. They can learn enough to really lick this number one problem, mental illness. The victims of mental illness need your help desperately. Give to your local mental health campaign. Stay tuned for 5 minutes of CBS News, to be followed on most of these same stations by My Son Jeep. America listens most to the CBS Radio Network.
Years ago, May 11th, 1956, the CBS Radio Workshop. Tomorrow, comedy with My Friend Irma, Dean and Jerry, The Great Gildersleeve, The Magnificent Montague, and Superman. But now, Arch Oboler's Lights Out.
In times of economic uncertainty and chaos, your money means nothing. You may not even be able to get it from your bank or ATM. And the money you do have in the stock market will go down and down. What you can bank on is gold and silver. Gold and silver have been a reliable and trusted form of currency for thousands of years. Gold and silver have never been worth zero, and typically gold holds its value during economic turmoil. Call the Gold Hotline now and learn how to protect your money and your assets with gold and silver. And learn how to set up a new IRA or roll over your current one into a gold-backed IRA. Protect your money from the next market crash with gold and silver. Call now for your free gold guide.
800-515-6302. 800-515-6302. 800-515-6302. That's 800-515-6302.
Though Arch Oboler is best acquainted with Lights Out, he was not the first person to do Lights Out. In fact, Willis Cooper initiated the show back in 1934, and his episodes were much more grisly than the original, than the ones that we came to know from Willis Cooper. Now, to not be should I say, to downplay, Cooper did some very vicious shows. But Arch Oboler did his share as well, and you're going to hear one of those today from 81 years ago. May 11th, 1943, from Arch Oboler. And this episode is entitled Murder in the Script Department.
Arch Oboler's
Lights out, everybody. It is later than you think.
This is Arch Oboler bringing you another in our series of stories of the unusual. And once again we caution you, these lights-out stories are definitely not for the timid soul. So we tell you calmly and very sincerely, if you frighten easily, turn off your radio now.
Oh, what time is it? 10 minutes more. Gee, it's been a long day, hasn't it? I'll say so. If I never see another script or typewriter, it'll be too soon. You were the one who wanted to get into radio. Radio. Sitting at a typewriter 8 hours a day, making stencils. You were the one who said it'd be a shortcut. Some director'd walk into the script department, see you behind that typewriter, and say, where you been all my life? Mary, stop it, will you? You think you're so cute, I don't see anyone whining.
Bernice, Mary. After all, this is a place of business.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't like to be the disciplinarian, but this is the third time that I've found you quarreling with each other rather than working.
We weren't quarreling.
Perhaps not, but it sounded like it. You're setting a very unfortunate example for the other girls. I'm going to ask both of you a simple question. Do you or do you not want to continue working here?
We do.
Yes, of course we do. Very well. No more of this nonsense, then. There's a script that must be mimeographed first thing tomorrow morning, so the stencils will have to be out tonight. It shouldn't take you long. What's the matter with you girls? Have you any objections to working late tonight?
Oh, no, I'd love it.
Very well. All right, the rest of you girls, time to go home.
Yes, I'd love to stay overtime if I could type over her dead body. Hush, hush, she'll hear you.
Here's the script, girls. 20 pages. Divided up between yourselves.
Yes, ma'am?
When you're through, leave the stencils on my desk and lock the door behind you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, good night. Don't forget to turn out the lights as you go.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, girls, let's get out of here quickly so that Bernice and Mary can finish their work.
Come on, me Of all the knock-kneed, blab-eared, long-necked, pot-heeled... Oh, stop it, will you? Let's type the darn thing off and get out of here. Well, what do you know? What's the matter? Look at the script we're supposed to type. Lights out. One of those things. Yeah. So what? I don't like to type them. They scare me. Are you kidding? Typing's typing no matter what you're typing. Not if it's one of those lights-out plays. Blood and people dying and murderers and worms. Ooh, forget it. Just words on paper. It scares me. Type with your eyes closed. You listen to this. Note to the sound department. At this point in the play, I want the sound of a body being turned inside out. I suggest the use of a wet rubber glove to plant the picture of a human being being deliberately turned. Oh, stop it, will you? Oh, for Pete's sake. It's only a sound effect. I was just reading. Well, will you type your script and let me type this? Don't go reading any of it out loud. All right. I wonder what kind of a screwball he is. Who? The fellow who writes these plays, you know. Arch Oboler? Yeah. Oh, I like him. Well, what are you talking about? You never even met him. Well, I like him anyway. But you just finished saying you don't like this. Well, I like his other plays. You know, the ones he does for the government. With sense to them. Well, personally, I think he's a wolf. Oh, what are you talking about? You know, one of these werewolves. I bet he eats his young. Well, don't talk like that. He's got a 10-month-old baby. I saw a picture of it. And it's real cute. Well, I still think... Well, for heaven's sake, just because the man writes fantastic doesn't mean he's fantastic. Will you look who's talking? Why, you're even afraid to type him. What are you afraid of, that the ghost will pop out of the pages and turn you inside out? Oh, stop it, will you? If you don't stop it... All right, let's type. Well, how do you like that? What's the matter now? My typewriter's jammed. Can't move a key. B? What's the matter with you? Mine is, too. My typewriter is, too. Like the fella said, c'est la guerre. Everything's falling apart. Suppose we'll have to use one of the other machines, just when I was getting comfortable. I'll use Anita's. Yeah, I'm going to use Evelyn's. She won't care what I do with it. She's going to be a wave anyway. Mary, this one's jammed, too. Yeah, so's Evelyn's. I'll try Elle's machine. She's always boasting about how fast it is. Why, it's jammed, too. Well, so's this one. Well, what do you know? What is it, the typewriter gremlins? Mary, what's the matter? Your face. Let's get out of here. What's the matter? Let's get out of here. We've got overtime. I tell you, let's go home. Well, just because a typewriter jams up is no reason to have a fit. Well, I'm getting out of here, and you better come with me. Oh, you're crazy running out. What's come over you? What? Bernice! What's the matter with you now? What are you standing at the door with your back to me for? Stay or go? Bernice, come here quick. Oh, for Pete's sake. What's the matter with you? What are you standing there for with your hand on the knob? It's locked. What? Locked. Oh, you are crazy. Let me at it. Let me try.
Why is it locked?
Because some screwball janitor thought everybody had left and locked the door, that's all. Say, somebody out there, let us out of here. We're locked in, hey!
It won't do any good.
That's what you say. I'll wake the dead. Hey, are you deaf or deaf or whatever it is? Somebody get a key and let us out. Hey, we're not slave labor. Let us out. What's the matter with me?
Where are you going?
All I've got to do is pick up the telephone and call communications. They'll get us out of here.
Oh, yes, call them right away. Tell them we're locked.
All right, I'm calling him. Hello. Hello. Answer me.
What's the matter?
Oh, I'm dead.
Oh.
Stop that. The operator thought we'd all gone home, so she disconnected the wire, that's all. Oh, for Pete's sake, of all the nincompoops, what is there to cry about?
Oh, I'm afraid.
So you're afraid, so I'm Queen of the May and there are roses in the air. What is this all about? What's all the hysteria?
You don't understand.
Don't say I don't. You stop crying.
No, something terrible's going to happen.
What are you talking about? We're in the script department of a broadcasting company, remember?
Oh, something jammed the typewriters. Something locked the door. Something...
What do you mean, something?
Something, I tell you.
I tell you, you're crazy. I think I've known you all these weeks and never knew you had bats in your belfry. There's absolutely nothing that's happened.
Why did you stop talking? Answer me.
The telephone cord. The end, it's torn off.
Yes.
But I talked on this telephone only an hour ago, remember?
Yes.
How could it have gotten torn loose?
I told you.
Oh, shut up. All right, maybe there is something screwy, I don't know. But I do know there's nothing to get hysterical about. This place only had windows I could call out. On modernistic air conditioning. Will you stop moaning?
Well, you're scared, too.
I'm not. Series of coincidences, that's all. What could it be? Answer me what? Who ever heard of anything happening in a place like this? Well, what are you looking at me like that for? This is no haunted house. You and me and a lot of other girls work here, remember? So if we're locked in and have to stay here all night, so what? The door's locked from the outside. The watchman downstairs, remember? So who could get in here to hurt us?
What if the locked door won't do any good?
What?
You heard me.
Oh, you're a crazy kid. Look, desks and chairs, fluorescent light, modern design, remember? We're not in a haunted house. Get that through your head. We're not in a haunted house.
Oh.
Well, what's the matter now? Get all through explaining. What's the matter?
Something happened.
Happened?
Something in the air.
What are you... Oh, for heaven's sake.
Over there at the end of the room.
The light must have burned out.
Oh.
I was right. Goes to show you how crazy you've been. A couple of natural things happen and you start acting out a ghost story. You should join the Actors Union.
Bernice.
Well, one of the lights burned out, so what? There's one thing the script department's got, plenty of light. Mary, why are you...
Another light. I saw it go out.
Are you dreaming?
I tell you, I saw it go out.
You're crazy, it didn't.
I saw it.
Now, look here. There are 2, 4, 6, 8 lights in this place. See? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, don't give me any more of that lights out.
Another.
You're absolutely crazy. I'm scared just staying here with you.
Count them.
Why should I?
Count them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Not 8. 7.
Gee.
I told you. Oh, no. What?
Another one out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh.
Stop it.
Another one there.
Gosh.
Over next to Miss Winton's desk. Another one.
What?
Only 4 left. Only 4. What'll we do?
Only 4.
Who's putting them out?
I don't know.
Another. Oh. Only 3 more. If they go out, I'll die.
They won't go out. They can't go out. The switch. That's it. I'll hold the switch. I won't turn out the lights if I hold the switch. It's all right, Mary. See? I got hold of the switch. Nothing
Another one. Another one.
But I was holding onto the switch. 2 lights. 2 lights and then dark.
Bernice. Oh, Bernice, hold me. I'm scared. Oh, gee, I'm scared.
It's all right. There's still 2 lights. See? 2 lights. They'll stay on. They will. I know they will.
They're both out. We're in the dark. Bernice, where are you? Let me out of here. I'm afraid of the dark. Let me out of here.
Stop it. Isn't it bad enough without you driving me crazy? What's the good of your crying? There's a reason. There must be for this. Everything's got a reason. I know it.
I can't stand it. I can't.
Candles. Those blackout candles. Stop crying and let me think. Miss Winton had some blackout candles in her desk. I know she did.
Oh, don't leave me alone. Don't leave me in the dark, Bernice.
Will you stop it? I found them. Candles, matches. There. 3 candles like this one. And this one. See? Plenty of light now.
Who's there?
Nobody. There's a reason for everything, I tell you. I know what it is.
What?
The electricians, that's it. The electricians didn't know we were up here, and they were testing the lights. They'll go on any minute. Wait and see.
You think so?
Of course. Look, what'd I tell you? There they go on again.
Look at the ceiling. Oh, no. Green. The light now is green. Green. All the lights. Green. You lied to me. You said it was the electrician. Look at the light. It's green. It makes your face look green. You look dead. You hear me? Dead. You'll be dead and I'll be dead. We'll be dead.
Stop it. You're not going to drive me crazy. Just because there's something wrong with the electricity. You look around. Everything's all right. Nothing's wrong here. Nothing.
Is that typing? I heard typing.
So did I.
Typing?
We just must have imagined.
Typewriters. Look at the typewriters.
Typing. And there's no one.
Who's typing? Who's typing?
I'm so tired. Me too. I wonder if it's day. I don't know. I don't think so. Sooner or later, someone will come along.
It'll be too late.
Don't say that.
Nothing's happened these last hours, has it? Nothing.
It will. When I get out of here, I never want to talk to you as long as I live.
As long as you live.
Stop talking like that, or do I have...
Oh, don't hurt me.
I'm not hurting you. No one's going to hurt you. Or me. Trick. It's some kind of a trick. The typewriters. Electric ones, aren't they? Power. Something. It's got to be a trick.
You don't believe it, do you?
Believe what?
There's something in this room with us.
Where?
I don't know. But it's here.
What are you trying to do? Make me scared as you are scared?
There's something in this room.
Where? Answer me where. Just you and me, that's all. You're not going to scare me. I'm not going to let myself get scared anymore. I want to get out of here, and I'm going to get out of here. My head's still...
Yes. I heard it, too.
What?
Something. Desk. Look. The desk moving. Look. That one moved. And that one. Mary, take your hands away from your eyes and look. Look, the desk. All of them. Moving. Mary, look. All the desk was moving. Was moving. Stay back, you. Stay back. Mary. Mary, all the desks in the room. They're moving down toward us. Mary, open your eyes, open your eyes. Please. You're not dead. You can't see.
I'm all right.
Oh.
I thought... I'm all right. But what happened? You fainted. Did I?
Yeah.
The desks.
They're all around.
All around. You're the one who's scared now, aren't you?
Right. I am.
I'm not.
Not scared? You?
No. It's very nice. What's very nice? You know. What? I don't know what you're talking about.
You know.
I don't know. Tell me.
So warm.
What's warm?
The sun. So warm. Sitting in the sun.
What?
Nice when the sun is warm, isn't it?
I always wanted to sit in the sun. Oh, no. You can sit in the sun if you want to, Bernice. It's all right. Mary, you don't have to shout. We'll go home soon. As soon as the sun goes down, we'll go home. Oh, Mary. I was scared before. Wonderful the way it is now, out here in the sun. There's no reason to be scared when you're sitting in the sun.
Oh, Mary, I'd rather you'd be afraid. Do you hear me? I'd rather you'd be afraid.
No. The sun.
There is no sun. We're right here where we were in the office. And the light is still green, and the desks are moved all in around us. And we can't get out. Mary, be scared. Please stop looking at me the way you are and be scared.
You say we're not sitting in the sun?
No.
You must be crazy, Bernice. Because we are sitting in the sun. Are you crazy, Bernice?
All right. If that's what you want. We are sitting in the sun, dear.
I knew it. I used to be so scared. Now I'm all right.
You were right before. When you said there was someone in the room. There is. I can't see anyone. But there is someone.
The sun is so nice.
First the typewriters. And then the lights. And then the moving desk. And now waiting.
Who's waiting?
It's waiting.
Will we go home soon?
Yes.
When?
Soon. I think very soon.
I was very scared.
Yes. When you get scared enough, you can't get scared anymore.
The sun is very nice.
I think I'm getting that scared now myself.
You hear something?
What?
Something?
There's nothing. No, there is something.
I told you.
Listen to me. Who's here with us? Who? Answer me. What do you want of us? Please answer me. What do you want of us? I will sleep, like Mary's asleep. When you sleep, you don't think. I'm not going to think anymore. If I think about it, get like Mary is. No, I won't think. Sit here till morning with my eyes shut. And when it's morning, they'll get here. I'll be all right. I'll be all right. Eyes closed. Green light still shines through my lids. How could green light turn me? No, stop thinking. Gotta stop thinking. Green light through my lids. Go. No light. Open my eyes. Dark. The lights are gone. Dark again. Mary, wake up. Mary, the lights. Please wake up.
I'm not asleep.
Oh. I thought.
Sun is very nice. Isn't it?
The sun. You still think... Mary, don't you know? Can't you see we're sitting in the dark?
Dark.
Stay close to me. If day'd only come.
I know. He'll be here soon.
Who?
In the dark. He'll be here.
Who are you talking about? Who?
Any minute now. Do you hear him?
Here?
I think he's coming now. Yes. He is.
No, please, no.
You're right. It is dark. Very dark. His kind of dark.
Stop talking like that. You can't stop him. No one can stop him. What's the use of being afraid?
If someone had only come.
I've been telling you. Someone is coming. Right now. And he's sitting on the desk, looking at it. I'm glad he's here. He'll make my head stop hurting. He'll take me home.
The floor. It's lifting.
Yes. I feel it.
The room. It's turning. Stop it. Stop turning the room. Let me out of here. Let me out of here.
Total of 15 Axis planes shot down in the Mediterranean theater of war. So much for the war news. Now the news of local interest to you early morning listeners. If you've been wondering why those dishes in the kitchen started to dance last night, the answer is an earth trembler, earthquake to you, of 5 seconds duration. The material damage was very slight, but 2 deaths are indirectly attributed to the earthquake. Bernice Saxton and Mirabelle Pressler, employed by the Broadcasting Company, were found dead this morning in the script department, where they've been doing overtime work. Cause of the deaths is believed to have been heart failure induced by fright. The girls had been accidentally locked in the office, and when there was a failure of electric power followed by earthquake, it is believed the young women were frightened to death. This concludes our morning broadcast.
It is later than you think.
81 years ago, May 11th, 1943, Lights Out. Now, from 1952, an episode of the syndicated series Freedom USA, starring screen star Tyrone Power.
This is Dennis James. Civil defense preparedness is important to all of us living in today's nuclear age. For information on what you can do to protect your home and family, here is a message from Leo A. Hoig, Director of the Office of Civil and Defense Mobilization.
After an enemy attack on this country, even if your city is not bombed, the radioactive fallout may be so intense that you will have to remain inside your shelter for 2 weeks. Therefore, your shelter should be stocked with a 2-week supply of food, water, and other essential items. Choose foods that will provide a well-balanced diet. Canned fruits, meats, soups, vegetables, packaged cereals, dried foods are a few examples of good energy-building foods that can be stored. Remember, a family prepared aids the community and strengthens the nation in time of war. Make sure you do your part.
And for civil defense information, you can go online to civildefensemuseum.com. And while you're online, visit our webpage at classicradio.stream. That is classicradio.stream. Now, Tyrone Power in a syndicated series, Freedom USA. This episode goes back 72 years to May 11th, 1952.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to hear the story of a United States Senator. You are going behind the scenes of political Washington, into the Senate chambers, the cloakrooms, the private offices, the meetings, secret and public. The locale, the background, are factual. Only the names and the stories are fictional. This is Freedom USA. Starring Tyrone Power as the Senator of the United States, and featuring the voice of America's distinguished news commentator and Washington authority, Edwin C. Hill. Freedom USA, the story of your government today. In a moment, listen to Tyrone Power as Senator Dean Edwards in Freedom, USA. Now, we present Freedom, USA, starring Tyrone Power as Senator Dean Edwards and featuring the voice of Edwin C. Hill.
This is Edwin C. Hill, ladies and gentlemen. When Major Pierre Charles L'Enfant drew up the plans for the nation's capital, he envisioned a city of magnificent vistas. What has sprung up instead is a magnificent hodgepodge. Lucky is the man who can find his way through its bewildering maze. Well, no less baffling in Washington, D.C., is the labyrinth of social protocol. Witness, for example, what happened to young Senator Dean Edwards when, in the course of a regular session of Congress, he found himself...
Ginger, congratulate me.
Senator, what happened?
Well, I've just been made chairman of a very important committee.
What? How's it possible? I thought appointments are made on the basis of seniority.
In Washington, anything's possible. Of course, in the Senate, it takes a little longer.
Well, what did you do? How did it happen?
It all started 150 years ago.
Oh, come now, Chief.
It's a fact. 150 years ago, Thomas Jefferson had the great foresight and the vision
to
realize that if this nation under God is to prosper and to grow,
Oh, dear.
it must have room. As a result, on the 30th of April, 1803, the United States of America signed a treaty with the Republic of France for purchase of the Louisiana Territory.
Huzzah. Now tell me, Senator, what's that got to do with you?
Well, Ginger, by unanimous consent of the Senate, I've been named the chairman of a special committee, the Sesquecentennial Commission for the commemoration of the Louisiana Purchase. Well, aren't you going to congratulate me?
Congratulations. I hope.
Now, what's the meaning of that?
How come Senator Higbee didn't get the job? He's your senior senator.
Well, he was the one who proposed me to the majority leader.
And Senator Weaver?
He declined. Too busy. After all, he's the chairman of one standing committee, a ranking member of two others.
What about Senator Ames?
Also declined. Said something about being married.
What's that got to do with it?
I don't know. I couldn't figure it out either. They all agreed, though, I'm just the man for the job. It's quite an honor, you know.
Okay, it's an honor. How are you going to celebrate?
Now, wait a minute. This isn't going to be a one-man celebration. There are others on the committee, Senator Rawlins.
What about him? He's from Louisiana.
Do you realize the Louisiana Territory included almost half of the United States? The whole area west of the Mississippi from British America to the Gulf of Mexico?
All right. So what are you going to do about it?
Before we're through, Ginger, we'll have every man, woman, and child celebrating. Songs, festivals, pageants. We'll have a special stamp issued. Maps, publications.
Don't look now, but I think you've lost a secretary.
Oh, don't be silly. We'll need a staff.
I hate to say this, Chief, but somehow I have a feeling that before you're through, you'll wish you'd never heard of Louisiana.
Senator Higbee.
Oh, hello, Dean. Won't you join me? I'm having some of that Columbia River salmon the Oregon senator sent down.
No, thanks. I've already had my lunch. Don't let me disturb you. I didn't get an opportunity to thank you.
Thank me? What for?
Why, the Sesquicentennial Commission.
Oh, that. Well, You're entirely welcome, my boy. Has the committee met yet?
No, I thought we'd meet after tomorrow's session. Senator, there's something puzzling me.
Oh? What's that?
Why didn't some of the older men take the chairmanship? After all, Senator Rawlins outranks me by...
Yes, Gideon's been in the Senate a long time.
Well, sir, not that I don't appreciate it, but... Well, isn't it a bit irregular that I...
You don't know the half of it, Dean.
Sir?
What I mean is, let me put it this way. Most of us old-timers have our full share of committees, special assignments. We could use a little fresh blood. Besides, we're all married men.
What's that got to do with it?
You'll find out. Yes, Dean. You'll find out.
Oh, Dean.
Senator Caldwell.
I tried to get you at your office, but you'd already gone.
What can I do for you, Sam?
Well, Dean, as you know, the great state of Idaho was originally part of the Louisiana Territory. And it occurred to me that on the night of the White House dinner...
White House dinner?
When the president entertains the president.
Which president?
The president of France, of course. Well, surely you're not planning to celebrate the Louisiana Purchase without inviting the President of France.
Well, as a matter of fact, Sam, it hadn't occurred to me.
Well, I thought of it, and I think it would be a nice touch if on the menu there appeared some good old Idaho potatoes.
Potatoes? But, Sam, I have nothing to do with the White House menu.
Oh, I realize that, Dean. But as chairman of the Sesquicentennial Committee, a little word from you can go a long way.
Potatoes? Gentlemen! We'll be here all night if we permit trivial matters to take up our time. I would suggest...
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Rawlins?
I rise to a point of personal privilege.
What is your point, Senator?
I resent the chair's remarks. Selecting a site for the Sesquicentennial celebration is not a trivial matter. When I suggested the great bayou state of Louisiana, I was not engaging in idle speculation. I submit to you, gentlemen, where would the Louisiana Purchase be without the state of Louisiana?
Seems pretty discouraging, Judge Parker. You'd think we were planning a picnic or a county fair.
County fair, eh? Oh, there's an empty bench. Shall we sit down? Ah, that's better. You know, Dean, you remind me of the late Reverend Hale.
Reverend Hale?
Edward Everett Hale, author of The Man Without a Country.
Oh, I didn't know he was a clergyman.
Indeed, a very able and astute one. Served as Senate chaplain for a number of years. Well, the story they tell you is that he was on his way to deliver the invocation when a friend stopped him. Mr. Hale, said the friend, I suppose you look at the country and pray for the Senate. On the contrary, the Reverend replied, I look at the Senate and pray for the country.
Amen. Well, that's about the way I feel.
You shouldn't.
Sir?
The Senate sets great store on its dignity and tradition.
No, precisely.
Real dignity, Dean, comes from within. All the outer trappings merely serve to symbolize the office and not the man.
But these men are senators, Judge. Well, the way they disported themselves in committee, why, it was a regular Donnybrook.
Let me ask you this, Dean. When did your committee meet?
At 10, sir.
In the morning?
No, right after the Senate session. It was a particularly long session, didn't recess until 10 at night.
I see. And you expect a group of men with normal instincts for letting off steam after a hard day's work to have acted otherwise. No, son. You have nothing to worry about. Scratch the surface of the most dignified senator, and you'll find the grit of Main Street underneath. Relax, Dean. Senators are people.
How's it going, Senator?
Tip-top, Ginger. We have subcommittees working on every phase of the Sesquicentennial. It'll be a humdinger. Old Tom Jefferson should rise up with pride when he sees how a grateful nation remembers his statesmanship.
Oh, I'm glad. The government printing office sent over the invitations this morning.
Oh, well, let me see. Say, this is beautiful.
Creamy white cards, steel engraved, the gold seal of the United States. The Bureau of Engraving sure outdid itself.
Well, from all I hear, the Sesquicentennial Ball promises to be the biggest social event of... Oh, say, make a note of this, Ginger. I want one of these invitations sent to Miss Emma Brady.
Emma Brady?
Mm-hmm. You'll find her address in my private file.
Emma Brady. Who's she?
Just an old flame back home. I can just see her, framing the card, hanging it up behind her desk. A souvenir.
Just an old flame,
Now, don't start getting ideas, Ginger. Now, let's see, where were we? Oh, yes. The president opens the celebration with an address at the Jefferson Memorial. We'll need special boxes for the diplomatic corps.
Oh, that reminds me. The State Department called.
Yes?
Well, the chief of protocol suggests that if the French ambassador attends, we withhold the invitation to the Chief Justice.
Not invite the Chief Justice? Why not?
Protocol.
Well, what's that got to do with it?
According to social protocol, guests are seated by rank.
Well?
Well, it's always been a moot point whether a foreign ambassador outranks the Chief Justice or the other way around.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Same thing goes for the Vice President and the Speaker of the House.
Oh, I give up.
All right, Ginger, give. Who is Senator Edwards taking to the ball?
I don't know.
Private secretary to the boss and you don't know? What kind of malarkey is this?
I swear, Mary, I don't know. There are lots of things private, even to a private secretary.
Okay, Ginger. If you don't know, you don't know. But if I get scooped on this story, you'd better start looking for another boon companion. Not to mention the nearest bomb shelter.
Oh, Dean.
Senator Higbee.
I understand you fellows are planning some kind of a shindig for the Sesquicentennial.
That's right, Senator. The Sesquicentennial Ball.
Black or white tack?
I don't know. I think the subcommittee was figuring on making it a costume ball.
My wife, that is to say, we're having some house guests, and if you can see your way clear, we'd appreciate a few extra invitations.
Oh, certainly, Dan. I'll speak to the subcommittee chairman.
Oh, I say, Dean, I beg your pardon.
It's all right, Don. I was just leaving. See what you can do, Dean.
I sure will. Now, Senator Caldwell, what can I do for you?
What's this I hear about a costume ball?
Well, sir, as I understand it, the subcommittee was planning one 18th century style. You know how the ladies love to dress up.
Do you realize what this can do to a man's career?
Sir?
Can you imagine what my constituents would say if they saw me in a powdered wig and satin knee breeches? All I need is a photographer to see me, and I'm through. So far as the next election is concerned.
Well, I'm sure costumes will be optional.
Not with my wife. She wants me to go as Alexander Hamilton. Oh, by the way, Mrs. Caldwell told me to be sure to get a few extra tickets for Fred.
I'd like very much to have a couple more tickets, if you don't mind.
Now, back to Tyrone Power, starring as Senator Dean Edwards in Freedom, USA, and the second act of our story.
This is Edmund C. Hill, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it looks like Senator Dean Edwards has stepped into the middle of something when he accepted the chairmanship of a special committee to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Louisiana Purchase. Not the least of his difficulties has been the question of social protocol, the rules of precedence, rank, and official etiquette. At the moment, however, Senator Edwards finds himself confronted by a new set of complications.
Senator Edwards.
Miss Kincaid.
My editor would like to know who you're planning to take to the Sesquicentennial Ball.
Oh, now, Mary, this is hardly in the category of news.
Oh, you'd be surprised, Senator. The leading social event of the season's good for a 3-column play. Not to mention a byline if I can befuss us with the mostest. How about it?
Well, to tell the truth, I haven't had an opportunity to give it much thought.
Well, you'd better start thinking fast, Senator. Unless I miss my guess, yonder horde of approaching news hawks will want answers to the very same questions.
Oh, no. Let me out of here.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, Mrs. Sturdivant.
Senator Edwards, this is utterly preposterous.
I beg your pardon?
My husband has served in the Senate for over 15 years.
Won't you sit down?
And I've never been so humiliated in my life.
What seems to be the trouble?
Only 2 invitations to the ball.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Sturdivant, but the committee...
I said to my husband, if the situation were reversed, I'm sure the committee would reconsider. My daughter's having her coming-out party, and we're expecting a house full of guests.
But, Mrs. Sturdivant, there's only a limited number of...
The Sturdivants have been numbered among the pioneers of this country. My mother was a Randolph.
But the committee has allowed each senator only 2...
Well, what are you going to do about it?
I'd gladly offer you my...
The majority leader will hear of this. It's, to be a costume ball, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, I'll be there. But I shall come as Benedict Arnold. Good day, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I tried to keep her
It's
up.
all right, Ginger. I doubt if the United States Army would have done better. What's new?
Oh, Senator Fuller called.
I know. His wife would like a few extra...
No. He wanted me to be sure to remind you to save a few sets of the commemorative issue when it comes out. His nephew collects stamps.
Oh, well, make a note to the postmaster.
I did. And Senator Swanson called. Seemed quite enraged.
Oh?
Yes, it seems that the Geographic Society issued the special commemorative map of the Louisiana Territory and left out the town of Oskaloosa.
Oskaloosa? What's that got to do with the Louisiana Purchase?
I don't know, but you can't blame the senator for trying to put his town on the map.
No, I guess not. You know, Ginger, I hate to admit you told me so, but the more I see of this celebration, the more I wish old Tom Jefferson hadn't dabbled in real estate. I swear, in the past 2 weeks, I've had more senators' wives... Say...
What is it, Chief?
I'll bet that's why my worthy colleagues picked me for the job.
What?
Why, those scoundrels knew what was coming. They talked of my singleness of purpose, but what they meant was my singleness.
Singleness?
Bachelorhood.
And in Washington, D.C., preparations for the Sesquicentennial Ball hold the spotlight, with the capital's most eligible bachelor, Senator Dean Edwards.
Flowered taffeta trimmed with cherry blossoms, stitched and spangled in gold. The question all Washington society is asking, however, is who will be the guest of young Senator Edwards?
And for my final prediction, ladies and gentlemen, look for the widow of a famous statesman on the arm of Senator Edwards the night of the Sesquicentennial.
Senator Edwards' office? No, I'm afraid the senator will not be available for any interview this week. I'm sorry. Thank you. Senator Edwards' office? No, I'm sorry. The senator is not in. Invitations? Oh, I'm afraid they're all gone. But there are no more. I'm sorry. Yes, I'll tell him. Thank you.
Well, Ginger, I guess we're all set. The chief of police tells me they anticipate a turnout of 250,000 people at the Jefferson Memorial tomorrow.
That's almost as many as have been trying to get you on the phone today. Mary Kincaid's in your office now.
In my office? Who let her in?
Who can keep her out?
Well, we'll make short work of that. Miss Kincaid, do you realize this is my office and you're sitting in my chair?
Yes, and I must say, Senator, it's not very comfortable. I've been waiting for you 3/4 of an hour, and you don't even say I'm sorry. Now, Senator, all I want to know is who are you taking to the ball? What's the big secret?
But it's no secret. It seems to me you're missing the point entirely. We're commemorating the Sesquicentennial of the Louisiana Purchase, and not my social life.
That is for the history book, Senator. Surely you must realize the moment you took office, you kissed your private life goodbye.
I'd like to.
Excuse me, Senator. Miss Brady's on the phone.
Miss Brady? Where's she calling from?
Union Station.
Oh,
She
no.
received your invitation, and she's here.
Oh, what'll I tell her?
Who's Miss Brady?
My old school teacher.
Thanks, Senator. That's all I wanted to know.
Hey, wait a minute. You have no idea, Miss Brady, what a pleasant surprise this is.
Surprise? Now, Dean, don't tell me you've forgotten all about the invitation.
Invitation?
The invitation you sent me with a gold seal on it? Anything so official, you wouldn't expect me to turn it down, would you?
Oh, of course not, Miss Brady. I'm delighted to have you.
And I'm just woman enough to feel flattered. Senator Dean Edwards, my prized pupil. How many years has it been, Dean? Oh, no, you better not tell me. I might get the notion I'm growing old.
Old? Why, Miss Brady, the young in heart never grow old.
Now, none of your electioneering, young man. I'll be 71 in July.
Wouldn't you rather we took a cab?
And Miss being seen with you? I should say not. Lead on, young man. I want to see everything.
This is what we call the Rotunda. It's really little more than a circular art gallery of the Capitol building. I'm sure you recognize this, Miss Brady.
Of course. The signing of the Declaration of Independence. And here's the surrender of Burgoyne. What was the year, Dean? Come. What was the year on the Battle of Burgoyne's surrender?
Well, it's been so long, I really don't remember.
Dean, I'm surprised at you. General Burgoyne surrendered at the Battle of Saratoga, 1777.
You have to help me, Ginger. I'm in a terrible jam.
Anything I can do, Senator?
Well, since the vice president will be unable to attend the ball, I invited his wife to be my guest as a matter of courtesy.
And?
Well, now Miss Brady is here. Apparently she took the invitation I sent her for a souvenir seriously.
Why don't you tell her the truth? Explain the situation.
Oh, I couldn't do that. It would break her heart.
Well, then explain it to the vice president.
And have him refuse me the Senate floor for the rest of the session? I've had a tough enough time denying Mary Kincaid's story.
Well, how about... Oh, excuse me. Senator Edwards' office? Who? Oh, yes, Mr. Speaker. Yes? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yes, I'll tell him. Thank you. That was the Speaker of the House conveying his regrets. He won't be able to attend the ball because his wife has come down with a virus.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Say, that gives me an idea.
Yes?
Protocol.
What?
Well, don't you see? If the Speaker of the House can't attend, the Vice President can. Protocol. Oh, Ginger, there's a divine providence that orders everything. Now I can take Miss Brady to the ball.
Edwin C. Hill, ladies and gentlemen, speaking to you from the steps of the Jefferson Memorial. Stretching as far back as the eye can see, down to the very water's edge of the tidal basin, in fact, is a sea of humanity, all out to celebrate the Sesquecentennial celebration of the Louisiana Purchase. Not even the rain has stopped them. Their umbrellas make a striking canopy of glistening waves of black fabric like a... Oh, there goes the United States Marine Corps band. The President and his party stand at attention as the colorful guard pass in review.
Are you comfortable, Miss Brady?
Snug as a bug in a rug, Dean, thank you. I wouldn't miss this for the world. Imagine the President of the United States. So near I can almost reach out and touch him.
You'd better not.
Why not?
See those men standing behind him? Secret Service. They'd nab you before you could lift a finger.
Oh, Dean, my eyes are misted over with the rain. Tell me, those boys marching out there,
Yes?
are they wearing their rubbers?
Miss Brady, may I have the honor?
Thank you, Dean.
Teacher, you amaze me. I didn't think you could dance so well.
I'll have you know, young man, in my time I was the belle of many a ball.
You're the belle of this one, too, Miss Brady.
Excuse me, may I cut in?
You see what I mean? Something wrong with your hand, Miss Brady?
No, Dean. I'm saving it.
Saving it?
This is the hand that shook the hand of the President of the United States. Oh, Dean, I don't know when I've been so proud in all my life.
Tears, Miss Brady?
I'm so happy.
And as the flurry and excitement of another great celebration dies away, the stately lines of the Jefferson Memorial once more assumes its quiet dignity by the waters of the tidal basin.
Well, Dean, I guess you must feel proud of your old school teacher. I understand she was the belle of the ball.
She's a wonderful person, Judge. I owe a lot to her.
Yeah, we all do, son. I think we honor ourselves when we pay homage to the humble teachers of our youth, the molders of tomorrow's citizens, makers of senators, presidents, and what's perhaps more important, mentors of democracy.
Yes, Judge. I think old Tom Jefferson would have approved.
Our star, Tyrone Power, will return in just a moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tyrone Power. I like America. I like America because it pays homage not merely to its heroes of battle, statesmen, and great men of science, letters, and arts, but also to the simple men and women who have selflessly dedicated their lives to the common good. Because no matter what shortcomings may exist here and there in the social fabric of our times, we are all striving to educate and inform the whole mass of the people, in the sure conviction that an educated and informed people is our best insurance for the preservation of our liberty.
Next week, may we invite you to again visit our national capital for another absorbing episode of Freedom, USA, starring Tyrone Power. In the interest of good government, we urge you to listen to these important stories from Washington, D.C. Freedom, USA.
May 11th, 1952, Tyrone Power, Freedom, USA. It would be just a few years later, in 1958, that Tyrone Power would die of a massive heart attack while filming a motion picture in Spain. He was just 44 years of age. We'll head back to New York City and see what's going on with David and Claudia when Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox continues in a moment.
Hello, this is Dennis James. Civil defense preparedness is important to all of us living in today's nuclear age. For information on what you can do to protect your home and family, here is a message from Leo A. Hoy, Director of the Office of Civil and Defense Mobilization.
For civil defense preparedness, you should know and take action on 5 fundamentals. Know your warning signals and what they mean. Know your community plan for emergency action. Know how to protect yourself from radioactive fallout. Construct a shelter and equip it with food, water, and other emergency supplies. Know first aid and home emergency measures. Know how to use CounterRad 640 or 1240 for official directions during an attack. These instructions are available to you on a convenient wallet-sized card. You can obtain one at your local civil defense office.
And now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we'll have an episode of Claudia now. This episode of Claudia is... Claudia has a doctor's appointment in New York City. This is from 76 years ago, May 11th, 1948.
Your Coca-Cola bottler presents Claudia, based on the famous play and novels by Rose Franken. Brought to you, transcribed Monday through Friday, by your friendly neighbor who bottles Coca-Cola. Relax, and while you're listening, refresh yourself. Have a Coke. And now, Claudia.
Why I ever let you talk me out of taking a cab, I will never know.
I didn't talk you out of taking a cab. I talked you into walking.
A very subtle deduction.
Oh, no hurry. We've got loads of time.
I like what you call loads of time. Our appointment with Dr. Rowland is in exactly 10 minutes. Why can't women be punctual?
Now, don't be so fidgety. We're practically there. Anyway, I can't see why you have to come with me, darling.
I intend to have a talk with Dr. Rowland about you.
He said I should walk a lot.
That was 2 months ago.
Oh, well, I'll make a deal with you. I won't worry about you if you'll promise to stop worrying about me.
Who said anything about me worrying about you?
Well, then why all the cabs all of a sudden? And taking my arm when we get to a curb? And why won't you ever let me do anything except nothing?
Because you are the lady I love, the mother of my child. Do you mind?
All I mind is that I don't want you to go around worrying about me. You have enough on your mind.
No, but when it comes to you, it's different.
Oh, thank you.
You can worry all you like. If I have a cold, I have to go to bed. If I cut my finger, my arm should be in a sling.
But, David, there is nothing the matter with me. I haven't got a cold, and I haven't cut any of my fingers. I'm only having a baby. Don't you understand?
I had a slight idea that was what's going on.
And everybody has babies all the time, for centuries. Chickens have them, cats have them, chipmunks have them.
You don't say.
So why shouldn't we have them?
You don't seem to understand that I'm not worrying. I just want you to be careful.
Oh, being careful is such a bore. All right, I'll be as careful as I can be. Within limits.
I suppose that's the most I can expect.
You know, being in New York today makes me realize how much I love our farm.
I love it, too. But a few days in New York will do you good.
Oh, I'm not complaining, except my city shoes pinch. Well, here we are at Dr. Rowland's. In plenty of time.
Through no fault of yours.
That's something else about poor Julia. She comes to see Dr. Rowland because she isn't having a baby. We come because we are. Oh, David, it's not fair that we should have so much, other people so little.
I'll tell Julia that. Now, come on in. It's starting to rain.
Hope his waiting room isn't all crowded.
I hope not, too.
Usually there are at least 10 mink coats sitting around.
That's a depressing statistic.
Good morning, Mrs. Norton.
Oh, hello, Miss Sterling.
You're looking fine, Mrs. Norton.
Feeling fine. Sterling, this is my husband.
Good morning.
Oh, yes, Mr. Norton. Mrs. Norton, Dr. Rowland will be with you in a moment. Just be seated, please, in the waiting room.
Thank you. Oh, my mother's meeting is here, too.
Of course. I'll show Mrs. Brown in.
Thank you.
You won't have to wait long. The doctor is seeing his last patient.
That's luck, isn't it?
That icicle. Ooh. You'd think she'd scare away the stork.
Shh. She's just efficient.
I'm glad I'm not married to an efficient woman.
Look, we're the only people here. How wonderful.
Is this drawing room Dr. Rowland's waiting room?
With a swanky doctor, a waiting room isn't supposed to look like a waiting room, though.
Oh? Why not?
It would depress the swanky patients.
What would?
Hello, Mama. Well, it's about time you got here.
Don't listen to her, Mama. We just got here ourselves. Hello.
I don't listen to her, David. I learned that a long time before you did.
Well.
You're looking fine, Mother.
Why shouldn't I? I've had a little peace and quiet in New York all by myself.
Are you two having a good time, ignoring me?
Oh, you still here? Hello?
Yes, I'm still here. David's right, Mommy. You don't look badly at all.
David's always right.
This is a plot.
Sit down, Mother.
Yes, make yourself at home. Mama, have you... I'll bet you've been so busy you haven't missed us at all.
How'd you guess?
What have you been doing?
Lots of things.
Such as?
I don't see that I have to give you a detailed report of how I spend my time.
You don't.
But if you insist, I've been dancing and juggling and walking a tightrope over Niagara Falls.
Very good.
That's telling her, Mother.
Oh, you two. If I let you out of my sight 1 week, Mama, you start being independent again.
Has she been behaving, David?
No.
Doesn't surprise me. She thinks it's smart to go on as if nothing were happening.
What is happening?
That's for Dr. Rowland to tell you.
Oh, that again. That's all you two can think of. You'd think you and Mama were having the baby.
Sometimes I wish we were.
It'd be so much easier for us.
I'll talk to Dr. Rowland about that, too.
The doctor is ready to see you now, Mrs. Norton.
Oh, thank you. Well, don't go away, you two. And don't talk about me either.
We won't. Don't worry.
There's a more interesting subject around somewhere, I'm sure.
Well, David?
How do you think she looks, Mother?
Fine. Is she taking it a little easier?
Not so you could notice it. You know how she loves to be active.
I remember all the rainy Saturday nights when Claudia was a little girl and I went to bed exhausted.
Well, right now it's like a series of long, rainy Saturdays for Claudia. It will be for another couple of months.
I don't see how. Isn't she awful busy up in the country, getting the house settled without a maid and everything?
No, it's always worse when you have a lot to do and you mustn't do it.
Days can be very long.
Particularly when they're lonesome. You know that, Mother.
Everybody tastes it sooner or later. I wish my husband could have known you, David.
Thanks, Mother. Well, I don't know what we're being so serious about. Do you?
Sitting around a doctor's waiting room always makes me serious.
Except that we're here for a happy reason.
Of course. Actually, I think Claudia's very well.
She acts too well. Maybe that's what makes me think she's not as careful as she might be.
That child just doesn't seem to realize what having a baby means, does she?
Maybe it's better this way.
I wonder.
Mr. Norton, Dr. Rowland would like to talk to you alone.
Oh, fine.
David, you don't think that...
Of course not now. We just said she looked fine, didn't we?
It's right through the door on the left, Mr. Norton.
Thank you very much.
Oh, hello, Mr. Norton. Your wife is in the examining room. She won't be able to hear us.
I'm glad to see you, Doctor. I've been wanting to have
Good.
a little...
Sit right down here by the desk.
Thank you.
I dare say you're concerned about your wife?
A little. Nothing specific.
You're quite right. There's nothing specific to be alarmed about. And yet...
Yes?
Mr. Norton, your wife is a completely normal young woman, and everything has gone along beautifully up to this point. The fact that you have sensed some slight change in her condition is a credit to your instinct. Your, shall I say...
Just call it love, Doctor. So I think you'd better be perfectly frank with me.
I was perfectly frank with Mrs. Norton, too, the last time she was here.
She didn't mention it to me.
Rather an amazing young woman. The average wife would be apt to coddle herself.
Not Claudia. I wish she would.
That's exactly the point. What she needs these next 2 months is a good bit of coddling. I want her to take it very easy, avoid exertion of any kind, and follow the diet I've outlined to her.
Yeah, that's quite an order.
So I gather. I'm going to see her next week, however, and I have every reason to believe there is no cause for immediate worry.
Then you don't think it necessary for us to come into New York, now that we can be nearby in case of an emergency?
No reason at this point. As I said, there's nothing urgent. Just keep an eye on her and see that she takes it easy.
All right, I'll do my best, Doctor.
Don't hesitate to call me if you feel the need.
I won't. Is Claudia ready?
Yes, the nurse is weighing her now. She'll be out in a moment.
She isn't upset about herself, is she?
She doesn't seem to be. She seems to be a very well-adjusted young woman, for which you should be particularly grateful, Mr. Norton.
Well, I am. Still, being as active as she is, these next 2 months aren't going to be easy for her.
I appreciate that. That's why I'm glad you dropped in to see me. This is one of the times when an ounce of cooperation is worth a pound of cure. Goodbye, Mr. Norton.
Goodbye, Doctor, and thank you very much.
Oh, I thought it was Claudia humming.
Oh, she'll be out in a minute.
Well?
Nothing much.
I don't like the way you say that. What does it mean?
Just what you think it means. Nothing too serious. We'll have to keep a close eye on her. How would you like that?
Oh, thank you.
Then you will come back to Eastbrook with us?
Now, what do you think?
I hate asking you.
You don't have to ask me.
Ask you what?
I married a couple of eavesdroppers.
Well, let's be on our way.
I'm hungry. Let's go to lunch right away. All of us.
All of us but me. I'm going back to the office.
You are mule-headed.
It has to be living with you.
Oh.
It's a good thing. I hope he's as stubborn as you.
You never said a truer thing, Mama. Come on, darling. I'll help you with your coat.
Oh, I can do it alone.
Be quiet and stand still.
I'm not an invalid.
You heard your mother. Personally, I don't care whether you stand on your head or not.
You
but
don't.
The least you can do is obey your dear, darling mother.
Oh, dear, darling mother wishes you'd been around for the last 15 years.
We both need moral support. Why don't you come back to Eastbrook with us, Mother?
Is that an invitation or a cry for help?
A cry for help, of course.
And I'll think it over.
You don't have to do me any favors, Mama.
I know it. My comment's for David.
Then you will... Oh, where are my gloves? Can't find my gloves.
There they are, under the chair, Clumsy.
Here, I'll
Too late.
get
I've
them.
got them already. Oh, David, don't look like that. I can pick up my own gloves.
Well, hurry up now. Mama's gone already.
Wait a minute, darling. You're not fooling me.
What about?
Whatever Dr. Rowland told you to make you look like this. I'm sorry.
Look like what?
Don't try to put on now, please. Please trust me, David. I know it won't be easy, having a baby. I didn't know whether you did, so I went on acting like usual, so you wouldn't worry.
You little cluck.
Now you know, too. I can tell by the look in your eye.
No, you're too smart.
No, it's not a matter of being smart. It's a matter of loving someone enough. I'm not going to be foolhardy about our baby. So promise me not to worry anymore. I'll be careful.
You bet you'll be careful. Mama's coming back to Eastbrook with us to see that you are.
Every cloud has its silver lining.
Well, we'd better hurry. Our silver lining is waiting out in the hall for us.
Oh, David, you're the most wonderful, darling person in the whole world. I was a little frightened, but I'm not anymore. La 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 la.
What do you ask for when you're ordering Coca-Cola? Some folks call it Coke, others Coca-Cola. For both are trademarks of the Coca-Cola Company. Both identify the product that invites you to pause and refresh. But always, it's the self-same delicious refreshment. Every day, Monday through Friday.
Well, Mr. King, it looks like I'm getting back on that Eastbrook train.
And everybody's delighted. When are you leaving?
Friday, I suppose. That'll give me time for packing.
You mean if that daughter of yours leaves you any time?
Claudia and David are staying at Julia and Hartley, so I'll have a little time.
At Julia and Hartley's, eh? Well, that ought to be amusing.
Very.
And that's what we'll find out about tomorrow, when Claudia and David spend the night in a mansion surrounded by maids and butlers. Every day, Monday through Friday, Claudia comes to you transcribed with the best wishes of your friendly neighbor who bottles Coca-Cola. So listen again tomorrow at the same time. And now this is Joe King saying au revoir, and remember, whoever you are, whatever you do, wherever you may be, when you think of refreshment, think of Coca-Cola. For Coca-Cola makes any pause the pause that refreshes. And ice-cold Coca-Cola is everywhere. This broadcast of Claudia was supervised and directed by William Brown Maloney. And now, here's a word from your friendly neighbor who bottles Coca-Cola.
I desperately want some glass bottles. I really do. Coke in glass bottles was the best. 76 years ago, May 11th, 1948, Claudia, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. A reminder to visit our webpage, classicradio.stream, with comedy coming up on Sunday with my friend Irma, Dean and Jerry, also the Great Gildersleeve, the Magnificent Montague, and another episode of Superman. See you next time for more Classic Radio Theater. I'm Wyatt Cox.